Sounds like you're very enthused as well to be back.
Yeah, I'm enthused to be back, and I love this subject, too, because small business is something that's really, really, really important to me. I've spent a lot of time trying to help people in business and helping people start business. I've started a lot of businesses, and the big thing with a startup is that it's very hard to get capital. And so we're talking about the small businesses that banks really don't like. They don't have collateral. The only reason banks like them is because they put money in the checking account, but otherwise they don't want to lend to them. Especially retail stores, there's no real estate, there's no assets, there's just cash flow. And so your company actually has a whole system for giving loans and credit to business people like this, even though they don't really have, and they may even have bad personal credit, and yet they can still get a decent loan.
Correct.
How did you get started in this business, Bill?
This is something that I kind of fell into in 2001. There was one company doing this that had a patent on the way this whole entire industry was basically paying back. That patent was then sued for by the top executives of that company, and in 2001 the merchant funding industry was kind of born. All of the top executives of the company then went and started their own, which I was kind of a part of at that given time. I started out as a sales accountant, basically, and worked my way up to sales director and then executive vice president of one of the companies that is a major leader in today's market. And then from there I went on to start my own, and here I am today.
Oh, cool. So this is your company, actually.
Correct.
Yeah. Did you have to get a line? Did you have to give yourself a line of credit when you started this for yourself alone?
I self-funded it through the commissions I made off the other deals that I had been funding, as well as some personal and mutual friends were able to help me out with investments, but we were able to pay them back 2 times over what their original investment was, so everybody was very happy from that standpoint.
And so this is like, we're talking about prospects. They're small to medium-sized businesses, and our estimate is at least 1 million of these kinds of people, which we call merchants. They haven't necessarily been in business very long. They're undercapitalized. They don't have collateral that a bank would consider lending on. Their financial statements to tax returns may be very weak. They may actually show losses or only modest income. And they don't have, oftentimes, a professional P&L and financial statements that a bank really wants to look at to make a loan. Is that kind of the kind of market that we're talking about here?
Correct. Our target market are people that wouldn't necessarily qualify for conventional funding. Typical banks won't look at these guys because of the risk associated with them. The average restaurant, for example, 1 out of 4 out of business the first year they start. The average lifespan in the United States is 5 years. Well, the average bank loan is 5 to 7 years, so just statistically speaking, it's a bad deal according to them. It has really nothing to do with cash flow. They could be a great guy in business for 20 years, but they look at numbers over a broad spectrum, and we look at kind of a hands-on approach as to what's happening right now. It's short-term debt. It's minimal documentation to get them pre-qualified. And, again, assets, collateral, we're not really concerned with. We're catching their receivables, which is really what the whole entire advance is based off of.
Okay.
So
what we're gonna cover is how these loans work, the requirements, how somebody applies and gets qualified, and we're going to also talk about how to market this in the competitive landscape. And the basic market for this are going to be people that have a store or business that have a certain minimum volume of credit card receipts or bank account receipts, and like that. So that's kind of what we're going to cover.
That is correct. Typically what we're doing is, we like to see their Visa MasterCard. So anybody that accepts Visa MasterCard is a target or a prospect. However, in some cases, we will look at people that do not accept credit cards. We want to see some sort of high cash volume or 14-plus transactions per month. So you might run into a few different stores, merchants, depending on their industry, that accepts credit cards or some that don't. An example of somebody that doesn't accept credit cards could be a plumbing distributor company that works off receivables. We'll do that, which is kind of a classic receivable financing. However, you might run into a barber shop that doesn't accept credit cards. That's too low volume for us to take a look at. If it's a barber shop and they do accept credit cards, we're looking for anywhere from $3,000 upwards to $4 million we can fund. So this can be for very, very small guys that need a quick cash injection of working capital to get them over the hump or buy inventory, or maybe they just want to market. A lot of cases we run into, they're trying to change their storefront, which drives traffic 10 to 15% more just by changing the front of their store and a sign. People are curious that are driving by and want to check out the new place.
So really, someone may have some really short-term, immediate cash flow need, and this is kind of like could be really quick, and they really don't need to have go through a whole bank lending process. It's much quicker than that.
Correct. The application process is very simple. Unlike a bank where they're asking for tax returns and all sorts of documents, we never want to send these people on a paper war. That's actually one of our pitches to them on the phone is I don't want to send you on a paper war. All I need are 3 different items in order to get you pre-qualified. There is a 1-page, very preliminary application which asks for just the basic owner's information and the company's information, such as tax ID, address, telephone numbers. That's really it. Then what we'll ask for is their last 3 months bank statements and their last 6 months merchant credit card statements. With these 3 different items, we'll be able to approve them for 3 different programs of funding. We have a traditional banking product, which is based off interest only, which only top or A-paper merchants would qualify for, which is very rare in today's industry. We have your receivable financing, which is the advances that we're talking about, as well as Flex Fund, which is kind of our version of a line of credit, which is basically they can borrow against their balance once they get down to a certain point. We'll give them more money on top of their balance, which is something our competitors do not offer. They make them pay off their existing balance in full before they can come back for more money.
Okay, that's interesting. So there's the top people can get a loan with interest only. Most people will get a loan where the your lender, you purchase their Visa and MasterCard receipts at a discounted rate. Is that correct?
Correct. So think about it this way. If you're doing $1 each month, I'm going to give you the next couple months $1 up front now, but I'm going to give it to you at pennies on the dollar or at a discount. So I'm purchasing a portion of your future sales and then giving them to you at a discount. So it's not an interest rate. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's just say, by example, that I do $20,000 of credit card receipts a month. What would I be able to borrow?
You'd be able to borrow anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000. We typically fund from 100 to 150% or more. Again, on a given case, it's different. So up to 150% or more of your total monthly volume of Visa or MasterCard sales for any typical merchant. So let's say the guy has a 480 FICO score. Everything checks out. He's just got a very poor FICO. He's got no judgments, no liens. It's just he's holding a lot of debt and he can't afford to pay it. He's constantly behind. And I should mention, too, that even if they do have judgments or tax liens, we'll still consider them. With a tax lien, however, they have to be in a payment plan, which isn't an issue. We'll give that man probably $25,000 to $30,000, and his pricing would be anywhere from a 128, which is 28 cents off the dollar, upwards to 38 cents off the dollar. Now, the way that he would end up paying us back is we would attach collateral against his merchant credit card machine. A certain agreed-upon percentage would then automatically come out of his credit card machine in order to pay us back. So it's an automatic method of payment. He's not writing us a check each month, and that percentage will never change. Let's say 10% is coming out of each of his credit card sales. If I go into his restaurant and I buy a soda for $1 and I pay with a credit card, 90 cents is then going into his bank account, 10 cents is then coming into mine automatically. So the purpose of this advance is to alleviate the pressures of a bank looking over their shoulder each month, demanding a check for no matter how well they do. With us, if they do really well one month, they end up paying us back a little quicker. Another month, if they do really slow, they end up paying us back a little slower. So it's paid based back on their own terms.
Hey, Bill, I have a question.
Sure.
If we can step back real quick, we have these 3 different options for products. What would qualify somebody for the interest-only product, the banking product?
Sure. The interest-only product is typically for somebody that's doing $20,000 or more in current sales per month. They don't necessarily have to have high credit card volume. They can just have high receivable volume. Their FICO score typically has to be about a 620 or higher. There can't be any judgments. There can't be any tax liens. They have to be in business for more than 2 years.
And what?
That would. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah. What do the rates run on that program?
Rates run on that anywhere from 6.5% to 18%, stretched from 1, 3, or 5 years. And again, the terms are all different, dependent upon the merchant choosing how much money he wants and what term he's looking for. We give them an option on all three of these. Obviously, the costs are different on all of them, but the whole point here is to let them have some sort of decision making to choose what they feel most comfortable with, rather than saying this is what we have available to you. It's kind of take it or leave it. It's more so, why don't we take a look at these three options and see which one best fits you, and then we'll take it from there.
So for a practical purpose, somebody fills out the form, gets those other pieces of documentation. It comes up here. We review it, and then we come back and say, here's where it's going to qualify. Here are the terms. Here's the best program that's going to fit the best for the merchant.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with the receivable. We'll give them as many options as they want, and some of the questions that you'll want to ask them is what's more important to you, the cost of the money or the payback. Now, in a perfect world, obviously both. However, we need to determine what can you afford each month in our payment. If we make the money a little bit more expensive but stretch it over a longer period of time, we might bring that percentage that you're paying back each month down to 5%, where you're not even feeling it on your bottom line. But again, the cost of the money is going to go up. If I borrow $20 from you now and you make me pay you back $60 tomorrow, that's crazy. But if you make me pay you back a total of $60 in 10 years, it might be something that you consider.
And can you kind of just highlight again what's different about this program than the rest of the landscape
Sure.
competition? Because I think that's real key.
Yep.